a way that makes people's lives better and society fairer. An era that levels up the playing field. With inequalities reduced, everyone benefits. With greater investment and new opportunities, our people and places will benefit. An era that builds on Greater Manchester's deep history of social justice and economic and industrial progress. Of innovation, science, technology, discoveries, and creativity. Greater Manchester has made real progress in recent years, and we've built strong foundations to make the changes we now need. Together, we can build a greener, fairer, more prosperous Greater Manchester. A new era for Greater Manchester.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, good. That's a good start. And I bet you've never been warmer, have you, in Manchester in March? You're certainly going to be warmed up this afternoon. We've got a lot to get through, and it's brilliant that you're all here with us. This is the start of a new era for Greater Manchester, as you've just heard. And we're here together as a new generation of leaders, the leaders of the council. Our new Chief Constable, Chief Fire Officer will be joining us later in the afternoon. We're ready to say to you, come on this journey with us in the next 16 years. This is a defined new era from 2022 to 2038. What we want to prove is that as we go towards a carbon neutral Greater Manchester, we can use that to make real changes to benefit our residents, give them all good homes, good jobs, good public transport. We can level ourselves up. We can make sure that we lift the north of Greater Manchester, all those towns across the north. We can make sure that all parts of Greater Manchester feel the benefits of the change and benefit from being close to the strong city that we're all gathered in today. And we could just make this a fairer place, a more equal place, where everybody has the basics to get on in life. And you'll hear a lot about that as we go through today. Our thinking is, by being clear about where we want to go now, coming out of the pandemic, setting our journey, setting our course, we think we are more likely to achieve it, but we also think more people will buy into what we're trying to do as a city region. And that's why I say you're all really welcome today, because you're part of this journey with us. But we want everybody to feel able to buy in and come on this journey to create a greener, fairer, more prosperous Greater Manchester. There are those voices out there that are starting to say, you know, we can't go green. We can't have net zero. We need to cancel it. Well, what I would say to that is this place has never turned its face away from the future. If you go back in time, Greater Manchester, particularly the city of Manchester, has always brought on the new. It's been prepared to go first and get all the benefits that come from being an early adopter, all the economic benefits and all of the social benefits. And that's what we're saying to you today. We're ready to do the same, to go first, to create a greener Greater Manchester. But in doing that, use that as a catalyst to the better jobs that people need here, the better homes, the better transport. That is the argument that we're putting over to you today. But also that greener can mean fairer, it can be more prosperous, but it can also mean a more secure Greater Manchester. And we think that's important in the world that we're currently in at the moment. More secure in terms of people's jobs and the quality of people's jobs. More secure in terms of their housing. But also more secure in all of our communities, also from an energy point of view. Because that's also about guaranteeing the the success of this place as we go forward in a more volatile world and navigate the shocks that keep coming at us, because they do keep coming at us. If I think in the 5 years since I've been mayor, we obviously have dealt with appalling terrorist attack, but we've dealt with flooding, we've dealt with fires, a pandemic, and now we see this great instability in our world. And while we're gathered here today to think about our future, I don't think it would be right not to start by thinking about the present facing people in Ukraine. I think we're joined today by Bohdan Ratic. Bohdan, are you with us today? Right here. Bohdan, please, everybody I'm sure will want to show their support. Bohdan is from the Association of Ukrainians in the UK. And of course, we have a strong bond with Ukraine because people came from there to help us rebuild after the Second World War. And many of our communities have that link with Ukraine. And what we would say to you, Bohdan, I'm sure everyone in the room will agree with me, we will stand by you whatever it takes. This is not a city region that walks on by on the other side. We will always be there with you. We know you have your appeal that you've launched, the Help Ukraine emergency appeal. Please look it up, everybody, and see if you can support. Also, there's UK Med, who are a Greater Manchester-based charity, sending medics out to the front line in Ukraine. Please support them both if you can. But Bohdan, you're so welcome to be with us today. As I was saying, I think these shocks will keep on coming. And we've got to deal with what they reveal. When the tide went out in March 2020, at the start of the pandemic, I think that kind of revealed things for us in a way that we'd never really seen them before. The fact that there were just too many people who, even if they were ill, couldn't stop work, but had to carry on working. That's one of the things it revealed. But also that there are too many people who found staying at home too hard because their home doesn't promote good health. Also doesn't give them access to the green space that they need. We saw young people who had to crowd around fast food restaurants to try and get access to the Wi-Fi, and I'm sure Diane will say more about that later today. We've got to work harder to give all of our residents the basics. As I said, good work, good homes, good transport. And you're going to hear a range of announcements today that will put real meaning behind that. If I could just mention good work, we've got a plan for 6 inclusive growth locations, and the leaders will join me in a moment and we'll take you through where those locations are. But these will be places where we seek to bring in new jobs, high-value jobs, to strengthen the economy of Greater Manchester. But at the same time, we want to improve work for everybody. And that's why, going forward, you will hear an announcement shortly about linking all public procurement in Greater Manchester to our Good Employment Charter and build on the brilliant work Lou Cordwell is doing, Chair of our LEP, building a living wage city region. We don't want people to be in work and be worrying about whether they can afford for their kids to eat on a daily basis. That needs to change, and it's going to change here in the coming years. And we also need to do more to equip all of our residents to take advantage of the new jobs in the green economy or the digital economy. And there's more we'll be saying about skills, but particularly as we go into a negotiation with the government about the deepening of Greater Manchester's devolution powers, skills will be right up there at the top of the agenda. We want to take more control of our skills system so that we can guarantee that talent pipeline into our new industries. Let me just say something quickly about housing, because again, it's a question of building new, bringing in new, but at the same time improving what we've got. The Deputy Mayor, Paul Dennett, will say something in the course of this afternoon about our plans to build 30,000 zero-carbon homes for social rent. And that is now a firm ambition of the city region. But at the same time, we want to improve housing for everybody. And that's why in that negotiation with the government, I will be asking for more power to link our Good Landlord Charter to the funding that is spent on accommodation through the benefits system, so that we don't have a situation anymore where public money is going into homes that don't meet the basic decent homes standard. So there we improve transport for everybody. I think we want a greener place as we go forward. It's amazing that we're just yards away from the first public park in city centre Manchester for 100 years, being built right alongside this amazing venue. But it goes alongside the Castlefield Viaduct on the other side of the city, and all the work Bev Craig is doing, and we'll hear from Bev shortly as the new leader of Manchester City Council. In Stockport, there's a new rooftop 2-acre garden being created in the centre of the town. We have got the Northern Roots project in Oldham, which is an urban farm. And this is something that gives me great pride to say this. Later this year, it is expected that the flashes of Lee and Wigan will be designated as a national nature reserve. These places that were slag heaps years ago, really scarred by industry, now will be designated a national nature reserve. That is a simple sign of how far Greater Manchester has come. But of course, finally from me, before we turn to the rest, we've got to connect everybody to all of these great assets that we've got, haven't we? This whole place needs to be able to function better from a transport point of view. People need to be able to move around. You will see now that we are moving ahead with taking control of our buses following the court ruling last week. This week, we are issuing the invitation to negotiate to the bus industry to come forward and start setting out how they will help us improve public transport here. There will be a new timetable for the change that we want to see at our buses. So Wigan and Bolton will be the first to see franchise buses in the second half of next year, but everywhere will have buses run for people, not profit, by the end of 2024. And we've set out today what it will mean in practice for people. A new, simpler, more affordable fare structure. Adult fares capped at £2, child fares capped at £1, which is pretty exciting and will change a lot of people's lives here. And I hope you feel the same about that. Thank you, everyone. But I'm just going to make two announcements now before I finish. Because obviously to get to where we want to get to on transport, we're going to need to have the best possible advice. Building a London-style public transport system requires a London-style experience of doing that. And the person who I'm going to bring up on stage now has been served as a managing director of transport for London for a decade or more, overseeing the change that we've seen in our capital city. So can I introduce to you the new Greater Manchester Transport Commissioner, Vernon Everett. Vernon, please come and join me upstage.
Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome. Thanks, Vernon. And earlier this year, we sadly lost Chris Boardman, who you'll all remember did some fantastic work for us, beginning to show what we can do with active travel across our city region. And of course, we need to bring in somebody to build on that work. I can't believe how lucky we've been, and you'll see what I mean when this next person joins me on stage, to become the new active travel Commissioner for Greater Manchester, straight from the Sheffield City region, but definitely coming home to Manchester. Can I also ask you to welcome on stage Britain's most decorated Paralympian, Dame Sarah Storey. Welcome, both. You can see the reaction of people here. Vernon, can I ask you just to set out how you see things from our perspective right now and the change that you think we should be able to make?
Thank you, Mayor. I could not be more excited at being here with all of you today. I've long been an admirer of everything that's been done in this great region to improve transport, improve life choices, and just be a really progressive area. And it's a great privilege to have been invited to participate in that further progress. So I can't wait to get to work. And I think, as the Mayor has already touched on, what we're after here is an integrated transport network. And one that also integrates with all of the work Dame Sarah will be doing on active travel. It all needs to come together. And as we all know in this room, if you get that right, it unlocks all sorts of things. It's not the transport of itself, it's what it enables. Economic growth, prosperity, access to education, inclusion across the whole region. It will also help us tackle carbon emissions, air quality, and improve health outcomes for everybody. So a really, really exciting agenda. And the Mayor, the Combined Authority, borough leaders, and the previous Commissioner have set out a really compelling vision for the B network, bringing together Metrolink with the bus network, then the trains, and integrating all of that with walking and cycling. So effective partnership, it has been a facet of all of the progress that this region has made over the last several decades, but it really does need to be continued partnership with the Mayor, national government. We need resources to be able to deliver this all for the people of Greater Manchester. With Dame Sarah, as I've mentioned, with my great friends at Transport for Greater Manchester, and I hope Steve and Eamon are at the back there because I'd love to catch up with them a bit later on, with borough leaders and councils, transport operators, and look, just everybody in this room. We all have to work as partners to bring all of this about. And in terms of my experience, the Mayor was very kind. I was there for 14 years at Transport for London, and the magic ingredients of making the transport network work there are safe, frequent and reliable public transport services, seamless and accurate real-time information and convenient ways to pay, and crucially, as we've heard today, simple and affordable fares. So I'll use all of my experience to help bring that about, working in partnership with you all and making the levelling up agenda a practical reality. We already see quite a lot of the elements of this in the way in which Metrolink operates at the moment, and connecting all of that up to the bus network and subsequently trains has to be the next step. So in conclusion, seamless, integrated public transport and active travel facilities provide the heartbeat of any successful city or region, and I can't wait to get cracking to help deliver the B network, which will bring all those benefits to this great area of the country. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much indeed, Vernon. Now, I know it looks like he's the bouncer at the back, but actually that is Eamon there at the back who was clapping your speech. Although you might think we don't welcome Londoners here. Actually, we do, Vernon. We look forward to working with you really closely, particularly Londoners who come to help us level up. We're really, really looking forward to working with you. We're so grateful to you for putting your faith in us and what's going on here. And I'm absolutely confident now that we're looking at a very radically transformed transport system in a space of months and years. And certainly with your help, that's what we'll get. Sarah, I'll turn to you. Obviously, we want to see a reformed tram and bus system, and in time working with our trains from an integration point of view. Do you think it's realistic to get people to cycle, walk the first mile, and then the last mile, having used that different transport system? Do you think our ambitions to cut the number of car journeys that are less than 1 kilometre are realistic?
Thank you very much, Andy. I certainly do, and I'm obviously very privileged to be not just coming home to work in Greater Manchester, but also to be building on the incredible vision of Chris Boardman and his team and everyone who's been working on this agenda over the past number of years. We have such a huge opportunity, and we've already seen a significant amount of the network start to be rolled out. More than 88 kilometres last year alone. The first Cyclops junctions have come on stream, and that very first pilot of the first publicly owned in Greater Manchester cycle hire scheme, which will connect tens of thousands of people to a reliable, convenient and cost-effective cycle hire option. And of course, rolling that out in full across areas of Manchester, Salford and Trafford this summer. But it's not just about transport, as we've already heard you say and Vernon say. It's also about health. And I live and breathe the benefits of walking and cycling every day. So I'll be wanting to help make that case to government that it's, if you want to invest in the north, you want to level up the north, you have to invest in people's health and well-being as well. And we have to make sure that all of the things that we build continue to be safe, continue to be inclusive and accessible to all, and continue to make sense for those journeys from A to B. So it absolutely answers your question. Yes, first mile, last mile, the entire journey. If you want to be training for something crazy like I am, then you can absolutely have a connected system that puts walking and cycling at the heart of that. And of course, we mustn't forget, and I know the work that Diane's been doing on this is so crucial, that being able to walk and cycle your journeys as a child is that first feeling of freedom and independence. And we need to be able to give that to more children across the city region. So I'm very, very excited. I'm thrilled, in fact, to be coming home, to be able to work with you and Vernon and all the team across the entire city region. Looking forward to meeting you all over the coming weeks and when we start properly in May. But thank you for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to playing my part.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Ladies and gentlemen, your new Transport Commissioner, your new Active Travel Commissioner. Let's give them a really, really warm welcome, because we know they're going to do great things for us. And Sarah, I think I'm going to ask you to join the panel, because I think you're going to, and Vernon, thank you so much. I'm just going to introduce the panel to you, because the panel will be listening to all of the presentations and then commenting later in the proceedings. So I've mentioned before, Lou Cordwell, chair of our LEP. So Lou will chair things. Next to Lou is Anne Selby. Anne is chair of our Natural Capital Group. Anne, you're very welcome. Next to Anne is Tommy Kirkwood, who is from the leadership group on our Youth Combined Authority. Sarah, you know. Next to Sarah is Nick Horn from Wythenshawe Housing Group. Next to Nick, Diane Madal, who led the work on our Young Persons Task Force. Welcome, Diane. And next to Diane, Steve Connor, who is CEO of Creative Concern and leads on environment for our LEP. So there's our panel, everybody. And I'm going to get straight into now those growth locations that I spoke about a moment ago. Because the idea here is that these are going to be the places in Greater Manchester where our ambitions become reality on the ground, where we see new net zero housing linked to net zero public transport, getting people to and from those jobs of the future. Greener places that are inclusive in every respect. And that's the plan that we're about to unveil to you now. So if I could be joined by Councillor O'Brien, leader of Bury, Councillor Neil Emmett, leader of Rochdale, and Councillor Aruj Shah, who together have responsibility for our northeast growth location. You can see that on the map just about before it disappeared. What we want each leader just to do now is just explain the level of ambition that we have for this area here. Obviously, that straddles the Oldham, Rochdale, and Bury boundary. There's a big announcement coming actually about a part of this site, which is the location where we hope to develop world-leading ambitions around manufacturing, machinery, materials. This is all part of this plan for the northeast growth location. So, Eamon, I'll turn to you first. If you could just perhaps share a couple of thoughts with everybody about the ambitions for this area.
Thank you very much, Andy. It's great to be here and great to be able to share just a flavour of our ambitions in Bury and across the northeast corridor. I think fundamentally what this is about establishing not just opportunities here and there, but a generational opportunity for the entire population of this part of Greater Manchester. You'll see in the slides, and lots more information to come, the detail that sits behind that. The huge employment opportunity sites of the Northern Gateway, not just big sheds, as they're often dismissed as, but real hubs of innovation, R&D, and advanced manufacturing, linking up what is already really impressive about Greater Manchester, its investment in science and industry, and its industrial heritage, bringing that all together into a new form at the Northern Gateway. Enormous opportunities there to be gained, but only if we do so in a strategic way, in a way that includes everybody around it. And that's really what lies at the heart of that ambition, not just plonking something in the middle of a piece of land between two motorways, but actually making it a hub for everyone else to be able to be connected to use, to utilize, and to take those generational opportunities. And at the same time, it's not just expecting that to trickle out into our towns. So in Bury, we're supporting that with real regeneration efforts in Prestwich, in Radcliffe, in Bury, and beyond. You know, decade-long plans of investment and opportunity, so that we can actually make the most of places like the Northern Gateway by providing alongside them exciting, vibrant, enthusiastic towns that attract people of talent and grow the talent that already exists in it. And if I just end on this one comment, I grew up in Greater Manchester and benefited from, I think, the previous generation's opportunities, the Metrolink and its expansion, a growing university offer, real investment over years in education and health. And I think for many people coming through, they think that that's stalled a little bit over the past decade or so. This is our opportunity to kickstart that back into gear and to really accelerate those efforts. So it's absolutely exciting, and these plans are going to make the most of all of those opportunities for the next generation coming through and hopefully beyond. Thanks, Andy.
Well said, Eamon. And we are committing jointly, aren't we, TFGM and Bury Council, to the building of the new Bury interchange as part of this plan. You can also see Middleton with the Metrolink connection put forward, a tram train pathfinder from Oldham through Haywood via Rochdale. So there's some big plans, public transport ambitions that sit behind the plan for the North East Growth Corridor. But Neil, I wonder whether I could ask you to I think reveal a new name which might sit at the heart of this this development. Am I right? There's some news there.
Indeed, we have, Andy. Thank you. Yes, if we look back over the years of industrial decline and austerity in Greater Manchester, some of the places that have been worst affected are some of our smaller towns across Greater Manchester, away from some of our larger urban centres in all of our boroughs. And in my borough in Rochdale, that means places like Haywood and Middleton, who have seen a massive decline over the last 30 to 40 years due to the collapse of the traditional industries there. And these are the places that have been most left behind during the years of austerity. So we're now to have a mayoral development zone in Haywood and in Middleton, which will now breathe new life into those smaller communities. As Andy has already said, we will be bringing Metrolink into Middleton. We will be bringing, for the first time since 1969, over half a century, we will be bringing back regular passenger rail services into Haywood so that those places like Haywood and Middleton can get that connectivity into our Northern Gateway, and so that those residents in those towns will have the opportunities to take up those new jobs that are going to come to the Northern Gateway, and proper, well-paid jobs, not poorly paid jobs that unfortunately so many people have had to take over the last few years in order to make ends meet. Proper, well-paid, skilled jobs, the kind of jobs that existed until the industrial decline. So I'm extremely excited to see what's happening around the Northern Gateway and in the North East Corridor to bring that excellent connectivity and to allow our people at long last to have good transport links to those good, well-paid jobs.
Thanks so much, Neil. Well said. And I think it's just important to let everybody know that at the heart of this site, so fundamental to the ambition we have for all of the areas around, and I'm going to turn to Arouge in a second with Oldham, but at the heart of it is the delivery of the site that will soon go by the name of Atom Valley. So this is a new one for you to get used to. After Media City, we are going to have Atom Valley. We're working with partners, University of Manchester and beyond. The AMPI Institute will be here. The Advanced Materials and Productivity Institute will be based on site. So that sits at the heart of this plan, and that creates the wealth, if you like, the new economy that supports all of our ambitions around. And with that in mind, Aruj, we very much want to see all of your ambitions for Oldham, particularly the mills of Oldham and the strategy you have there, creating new accommodation for people who will be attracted to work in this part of Greater Manchester.
Thank you, Andy. And similar to Eamon and Neil, this is fantastic for Oldham. There's no doubt being part of the growth corridor is really exciting. But not only do we hope to attract inward investment, but it's also about international and sustainable supply lines that will make Oldham competitive, I think, is what a fast-changing globalised world. So I'm really excited to see these proposals bear fruit. I look forward to working closely together with Greater Manchester for growth, green jobs, sustainable industries, and ultimately for me in Oldham, stronger communities. So thank you, everyone.
Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you all three. I think that's the North East Growth Corridor. The next inclusive growth location is the Eastern Growth Corridor. Councillor Brenda Warrington, I think, will join us on stage. And this very much is about continuing the regeneration of Ashton Town Centre and the new Petersfield area, which I was in recently with Brenda, but then building out across the rest of the borough, and particularly towards the new development of Godley Green. But Brenda, I'd ask you to take the stage and say what you'd like to say about the Eastern Growth Cluster.
Thanks, Andy. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, I mean, as leader of Tameside Council, inclusive growth, recognising the importance of creating opportunities for all and distributing the benefits of prosperity fairly really does have to be the heart of all of our ambitions for Greater Manchester as a whole. And our vision for the Eastern Growth Cluster, we want to drive employment and housing growth for the east of the conurbation through a focused investment in the Ashton Innovation Corridor and in our Hyde Growth Triangle. And of course, as Andy has just mentioned, the development of the Godley Green Garden Village, which will deliver over 2,000 new, high-quality, low-carbon homes, but at the same time will improve transport connectivity and support the regeneration of both Hattersley and Hyde town centres, both areas that have suffered over the past few years. And we're very excited to see the kind of plans that we have for those two areas for the future. But we'll also see significant new employment growth in two areas of Ashton. One in St Petersfield again, Andy has already mentioned this, that will complement what we call our Ashton Old Baths initiative, which is an amazing building. And I have to say, if you've never been there, do go and have a look. It's fantastic. What we've done with a grade, is it grade 1 or grade 2? Can't remember. Grade 1 listed building, you would never believe. But that houses many young entrepreneur-type people, start-up businesses, and they really, really love being there. It's an amazing place to work. But what we're going to do with the rest of St Petersfield is equally as exciting. But also our area of Ashton Moss, which again, some of you may have heard, I don't know, but it's been an area for a long time that we've had difficulty with because it does need a lot of work before you can actually start to build on it. But we're hoping that there's going to be sufficient interest from leading industry, let's say, without giving anything away, to actually get that work done and get that being one of our main employment areas in Tameside. And we have to make sure, of course, I think it's already been mentioned, that our own residents have the opportunity to fill the new jobs that will be created in all of these areas. And so we must ensure that appropriate skills training is available to our residents, especially in the areas that we have of higher deprivation. They must benefit from all of the investment and the growth opportunities that we intend will come into Tameside. But of course, again, I think it was Neil, you mentioned a mayoral development zone. We also have decided, and Andy has agreed, that we will have a mayoral development zone in the St Petersfield in Ashton Moss area. We do expect that to give us some really good advantages. It's ambitious, it's innovative, but it will support the levelling up bid that we recently secured for Ashton as well, regeneration of our town centre there. And what we need to do, of course, is strengthen the public transport connections with all of the other authorities in Greater Manchester that are around us. We have to do that. We have to have a quality bus network. We want to be able to get to Rochdale and Oldham without having to use the motorway. You know, we can use other means. And you know, we also want to strengthen Staley Bridge, which this year is the Greater Manchester Town of Culture. We want to strengthen the role of Staley Bridge as a northern rail hub. That will be very exciting. But also, we will continue to argue that the continuation of the Metrolink service from Ashton through to Piccadilly must be maintained, even with the work that we know will go on with HS2 in the foreseeable future. We must make sure that we maintain those links, because if we don't, we do believe that our growth ambitions may well be affected by that. But I'm sure we'll find a way, and I'm looking at people like Eamon to make sure that that happens. I don't know if Eamon's stood there listening, but Eamon, where are you? It's your job. So thank you very much. We are excited for the future, and we look forward to the generation with everyone else.
He's well and truly told, Brenda, so no problem. So now, can I welcome up Greater Manchester's lead on economy and business, Councillor Elise Wilson, but in this context, more importantly, leading for us on the airport and southern growth corridor. Elise.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, everyone. I will try and be quick. We are obviously absolutely committed to retaining the competitiveness of the southern part of the city region. And we see that both from all the way from the airport and its links and HS2 coming into the airport, and how important that connectivity is to ensure that Greater Manchester remains an international city that we are. Or city region, should I say, that we are. But that is extending all the way into our towns. Stockport is a town borough. I am the leader of Stockport Council, and we are an ambitious place. Stockport has a lot of things going on at the minute, not least over £1 billion investment into our town centre, which sees massive transformation across the town centre, including Red Rock, which some of you I know have your own feelings about what that looks like. But I can assure you that my children think it is a great place to go. And also our old town with our marketplace, our underbanks that's had an £8 million regeneration, and we boast the only restaurant in Greater Manchester to have a green Michelin star. But part of all of what we're trying to do here in Stockport is our Mayoral Development Corporation. Our Mayoral Development Corporation is the only one of its kind in the UK, and it sets a blueprint for town centre regeneration. And with the thanks of the Mayor, thank you, for backing what we're trying to do here in Stockport. This Mayoral Development Corporation is a public-private partnership, a delivery vehicle for regeneration, backed by the council to the tune of £100 million. We are already delivering on a pipeline where we have got over 1,000 new homes being delivered in this area, including St Thomas's, which sees a falling apart historical building brought back into life to deliver the Academy of Living Well. And it is 100% affordable homes, including the dementia care facility and intergenerational living. We're also delivering Weir Mill, which sees, again, another historical building in the town centre of Stockport brought back into use with the thanks of Capital and Centric. Royal George Village, again, another development taking place already. And this week alone, you'll be pleased to hear, Andy, we are groundbreaking on our new park. So we're going to deliver a whole new park right in our town centre, bigger than a football pitch, where we're actually going to be able to sit and enjoy our beautiful viaduct. And together with this park, we're going to deliver a state-of-the-art transport hub, which will hopefully very soon, Andy, we'll be getting new buses. But we have a future, and the future, we're ambitious here in Stockport. We see that we've got big things planned. New pipeline of things coming forward. We want to see a new 7-point plan being delivered, which we have pitched to the government, which includes a brand new hospital right in the middle of that town centre. We're also ambitious on an innovation zone so that we can have business start up, scale up, grow and be successful right in our town centre. And we also have a real commitment to the links and connectivity that I started with, because it is part of what makes Stockport successful. 7 minutes from Piccadilly. It actually matters. It matters that you can get places. Our links to Sheffield, it's important, and that's why we've got a Stockport train station prospectus backed by the MDC, seeking government support to really ensure that that connectivity of Stockport remains, and that we are contributing as a borough, a great town borough, to what is a really amazing city region, a city region that I absolutely adore and love. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Elise. So you've all got a new thing to do in Greater Manchester. You can go and sit in a park soon and admire a viaduct. Enjoy a viaduct. And Elise is fond of saying that Stockport is on the way to being Brooklyn to Manchester's New York. Have I got that right? Yeah. But she's just thrown a challenge down there with the Michelin star, so it obviously now feels that I'm going to have to turn towards the centre. And we're not the kind of place that pitches towns against city. This place recognises that both can rise together. And actually, if you have a strong core to the city region, your chances of lifting everywhere are much greater. So can I invite still the new leader of Manchester City Council, Councillor Bev Craig, and Mayor Paul Dennett to the stage to talk about the plans for the Central Growth Cluster. Bev, over to you.
Feels a little bit like the dragon's dens of boroughs, this. So, and rarely would it be said from Manchester, oh, what a tough act to follow in Stockport. But I think what you see today is you see energy from all of us, not just about what we want to achieve in our own areas, but what we want to achieve together for Greater Manchester. Because if I think about the successes that we'll see on the screen here, for Manchester to do well in the future, we need the rest of Greater Manchester to do well. For the rest of Greater Manchester to do well, they need Manchester to do well. So it really feels that we're in a strong position going forward around what it is that we want to achieve together. So stood here in Manchester City Centre, I probably don't need to draw too much on what you can see around us. But what I would say is what has developed over the last 20 years has been by design. It doesn't happen by itself. And it's the ambition of people in this room that achieve all of these things. So when we talk about, as we come out of the pandemic, what some of the future ambitions for Manchester and Greater Manchester looks like, if I draw on what's on the screen, already coming out of the pandemic, we knew that we had to move fast to keep things building and to keep things moving with our economy, putting in place over 50 projects across the city that would see not just cranes in the skies, but jobs for Manchester and Greater Manchester people be created. So from here in Mayfield to literally across the road, when we look at ID Manchester, what will be a fantastic opportunity when we talk about R&D in the city region, £1.5 billion worth of investment that will bring thousands of jobs, but investing in Greater Manchester's frontier sectors, putting Manchester firmly at the top of the league internationally when it comes to our innovation. When we talk about building on strengths around being a connected city that has a diverse and innovative economy, building our creative and digital sectors, building on our strengths in life sciences, thinking about the corridor and going even further in some of that expansion. So there's some really exciting things happening in the centre of our city region. But I would just say, and of course I would say this as leader of Manchester, that for me, Manchester's success is not just about what happens in the city centre. So Victoria North, which will see the building of a whole new neighbourhood, 15,000 homes over the next 10 to 15 years. The work that we're doing on the ground at North Manchester General Hospital, using that as an innovative blueprint for how public sector and private sector partners can come together to achieve outcomes for local people. The airport city, obviously that's in the South Growth Corridor, so I don't want to go back in time, but what we can achieve for people in Wythenshawe. So for me, at the very core of what it is we're building on jobs and exciting opportunities for people in Greater Manchester and building on our strengths. The thread that runs through all of this is what we do around our inclusive economy. Because frankly, without lifting up all of our residents in all of our places, what are we doing? Unless we can improve outcomes, increase opportunities, and our economy is genuinely inclusive, then there's no point to what we're here for. So lots of exciting things coming up, but just to reassure you, behind every plan that comes forward, there's a real hope and optimism for what we achieve, not just in the city, but the city region, the northwest, and the north as a whole.
Okay, absolutely delighted to be sharing a platform with the leader of Manchester. The two cities in the city region do work together, let it be known. Absolutely. For me, though, the central cluster, if you like, within the city region is all about inclusive growth. It's about how the urban city region can support our townships that we've already heard an awful lot about. It's also about leveraging economic opportunity, delivering higher rates of productivity, research and development, innovation, our global competitiveness, because we are in a global economy, really important for the city region. But also not forgetting that Greater Manchester and the core of the city region is also a key tourist destination. People working in retail, F&B, culture, the importance of our nighttime economy. It's critical that that succeeds for the whole of the city region. But also for us as well, I think this is really important if we're serious about levelling up. Because what we know from the economic modelling we've undertaken is that within the core, we will see significant employment growth over future years. We anticipate 90,000 jobs being created within the core cluster. That's across the places that Bev's already highlighted, but also the Quays and Media City Phase 2 and the Salford Crescent next kind of iteration of regeneration in the city of Salford and the ongoing expansion of Greengate. We also importantly know that we've identified sufficient land in the core, in the city centre core, to accommodate almost 100,000 homes. That's 50% of the land required to meet local housing need within places for everyone. So the success of the core is really important if we're to protect our really valuable green spaces across the entire city region. And the success of the core is also important if we're to actually ensure we don't have development by appeal within Greater Manchester when meeting local housing need. But it's also about bolstering that employment growth with new skills, innovation, R&D, as we think about new industries of the future, working with our outstanding world-class universities here within Greater Manchester. And I know certainly from a Salford perspective, we've got great research going on in engineering, Energy House 2.0, the Robotics Centre, Industry 4.0, you know, the future of augmented reality, virtual reality, 5G, big data analytics. Being strategically placed within a global economy to deliver on that agenda is really important for our city region. But for me, it's also about pushing our partnerships further. We've got great working relationships with the private sector and with government. And actually, to deliver on our ambitions for the core, we need more out of those relationships. We need to learn from our successes in Media City, in Central Salford, and all the various regeneration we've seen within the city of Manchester. And we also know to deliver on our ambition for the core, we need integrated public transport. We're here basically at Piccadilly, and you know, HS2 Rail Metro Hub is going to be critically important for the future economic successes of the entire city region, not just the cities of Manchester and Salford. We also know we need Metrolink connectivity between Media City, the Crescent campus, into the city of Manchester. We need to further develop our walking and cycling infrastructure and our enhanced bus corridors. Great news off the back of the recent judicial review. We can now crack on with getting our buses back under public ownership here within Greater Manchester. So it's for all of these reasons that the core of the city region matters. But ultimately, in the city of Salford, we talk about the spirit of Salford. And the spirit of Salford are the people of the city. That's what this is all about, delivering for the people here in Greater Manchester. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bev. Thank you very much indeed, Paul. Now, to introduce you a leader who's so powerful and important that he's already had a growth cluster named after him, the Western Growth Cluster. Can I introduce to the stage the leader of Trafford Council, Councillor Andrew Weston.
Thanks, Andy. And as important as I'm sure I am, there are two reasons why I have been put on last. Number one is because it covers a part of our conurbation that is already doing relatively well. We know that Trafford Park has been a key part of the Greater Manchester economy for centuries. But secondly, because I am the leader that takes us not only out of Greater Manchester, but worse than that, talks about our connectivity to the city of Liverpool. And, you know, I say that because the Western Gateway is a unique opportunity for us to unlock unrivaled port connectivity from the port of Liverpool into Port Salford, and in doing so, to unlock as many as 25,000 jobs and 20,000 new homes. This will be a game-changing project for Greater Manchester. 25,000 new jobs, not just in Port Salford, but in Carrington, Partington and in Trafford Park. 20,000 new homes, predominantly on brownfield land at Carrington, Partington and at Trafford Waters, but also through our new sustainable urban neighbourhoods, in Trafford's new civic quarter and through our regeneration of Stretford Town Centre that I am delighted to say received planning permission last week and is a public-private partnership between Trafford Council and Bruntwood. But all of these ambitious projects require increased connectivity across our city region. And for this scheme to work, we will be dealing with that capacity issue in three key ways. One, through improved bus routes. Two, through increased highway capacity through the Cadishead link and through the Western Gateway infrastructure scheme. And thirdly, as a light rail geek, most excitingly for me, through expanding the new Trafford Park Metrolink line out to Port Salford. Because it's been fantastic this afternoon to hear from my colleagues about the aspirations that they have for economic growth in their area, about how we can work together, and in the absence of an effective levelling up policy nationally, to work together to level up Greater Manchester collectively to access jobs, to improve connectivity, to build sustainable homes and neighbourhoods, to ensure that, as we have been before, we are leading as a city region on what this country needs to do to thrive. This is an area that has led the way in our city region for such a long time. Trafford Park, at the heart of the Industrial Revolution, will take us forward again, but it will do so as part of a Greater Manchester, as we have heard, that thrives together, grows together, and leaves nobody behind. Thank you.
Well done, Andrew. That's very hard to follow, actually. But I do just have to follow briefly as a Wigan Borough resident to talk about the Bolton and Wigan growth corridor. Sadly, the leaders of Bolton and Wigan couldn't make it today. But this is our 6th inclusive growth location that rests around higher ambitions for Wigan Town Centre and for Bolton Town Centre, in Bolton particularly. The Bolton Health Innovation Campus is very much high on our agenda. We're looking at a new east-west link road here, linking these two great, proud northern towns. Wigan has an incredible opportunity as HS2 comes in just south of Wigan for a new major transport interchange at the heart of the northwest, and that is very much part of our thinking. There is plans for new homes in between. And here at the bottom, we have a plan now to build the first new rail station in Greater Manchester for over 20 years at Golborne. I'll declare my interest. I do live there, but it's been a plan that we've been long working on, way before my time. It's on the site of the old Golborne South station. Work will begin in 2024. It will open in 2026. This is about spreading the connectivity benefits of our public transport plan to all parts of Greater Manchester. And it's an exciting vision alongside tram train on the Atherton line, taking Metrolink into the Bolton Borough and the Wigan Borough for the first time. So there we are, ladies and gentlemen. Those are our 6 inclusive growth locations. We wanted to make it real, so we're not just sort of talking pie in the sky. This is where it lands on the ground. And what we're going to do now is going to ask you to stay with us. You've got another hour to go, everybody. But what you're about to get is 10 very specific, very ambitious announcements as to what we are going to do in the next period to deliver on everything you've heard about so far. So I'll leave the stage for a bit now, and I think we've got another video that will set up the next section of today's event. Thanks, everybody. Bit of an awkward silence there, wasn't there? I'm back, everybody. I think we were expecting Councillor Aruj Shah, Professor Neil Humphrey, and Elaine Johnson, who are going to make these 3 announcements for us. So you're right here, sorry. So come and join us. Is Aruj with us as well? So Brenda's going to come and do the announcement for Aruj. So Come up and join us, everybody. So Elaine, Neil, and Brenda for a rouge.
Okay. I have to say, this wasn't expected, but I'll do my best. I'm sure a rouge asked me for all the right reasons. So, the announcement. Greater Manchester Combined Authority and the local authorities will move by 2023 to only procuring from companies that pay the real living wage. Also, that they support good employment via the Greater Manchester Good Employment Charter and have a plan to become carbon neutral. And we will also improve supplier diversity by reserving some contracts for Greater Manchester SMEs or VCSE organisations. So that is really, really good. And I think it's fair to say, and I am going from Arouge's notes here, but I did have the lead for inequalities prior to Arouge. So I know that it's really, really serious, that we have to understand and we have to tackle inequalities. There's been a tremendous amount of good work done on this by all of our equalities panels, and the refreshed Greater Manchester strategy is our system-wide response to the findings of the Independent Inequalities Commission and the Build Back Fair and Marmot report. We know that the pandemic made things an awful lot worse, but we know that those inequalities already existed. And we are committed to working in partnership across all sectors, all places, to ensure that collective actions can reduce inequalities in all of its forms across the whole of Greater Manchester. We're not going to lose focus. We're currently working on the IIC commissioners again to undertake a one-year review, demonstrating the progress is made and being clear on our priorities to continue to drive out inequality as we move forward. And can I just say, I have recognised a few people here that are working very hard on our equalities panels. I'm looking at two people straight in front of me here, and I know that there is a huge commitment from people to make sure that we don't lose sight of all the work that needs to be done still, but to thank those people also for the tremendous work that has been done so far. It really is good. So as we strive for a fairer Greater Manchester, I'm delighted on behalf of Arouge to be able to announce today that Greater Manchester and the local authorities, again, just to reaffirm, will move by 2023, as I said earlier, to only procure from companies paying the real living wage, support the Good Employment Charter, and have a plan to become carbon neutral. And we will improve supplier diversity by reserving some contracts for Greater Manchester SMEs or VCSEs. So thank you. That was on behalf of Arouge, but I know that it's very well meant. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Neil Humphrey and I work at the University of Manchester. We know our residents need a range of services and facilities in order to get on and live a good life in Greater Manchester. That's why, building on our local social prescribing services, we will create a Greater Manchester Live Well minimum offer, designed with communities and offering routes into supported activity, information and advice across all 10 localities. Greater Manchester's Live Well minimum offer will provide a structured and consistent offer of information, advice and support, routes into activity across all 10 districts. Through Live Well, we will build ways to improve personal and community well-being, resilience and social connections. The Live Well model will put more resources into the hands of our communities, delivered through partnerships and collaboration between communities, the health sector, voluntary and community sector organisations, local authorities and broader stakeholders. By working with communities, we can ensure that people can get the support that matters to them in ways that are right for them and easy to access. But I also want to say a little bit about the Be Well project, which is a project that I lead from the University of Manchester in collaboration with the Combined Authority and the Anna Freud National Centre. Nearly 40,000 young people in years 8 and 10 across Greater Manchester took part in our Be Well survey. This is the biggest engagement exercise of its kind in the country. Through this activity, Greater Manchester is a trailblazer in assessing and monitoring young people's well-being. The Be Well survey tells us what support and activities young people currently access, as well as how they feel, and we're using this data to design a social prescribing pilot in 15 schools across 5 neighbourhoods in Greater Manchester. Young people in each school will train as peer health coaches, design mental health campaigns in their schools and neighbourhoods, and commission activities to support young people's well-being with providers in their local communities. Through the Be Well survey, young people have told us that mental health is a priority for them, and the social prescribing pilot will give young people the opportunity to design the support they want and need, supported by professionals and their local community. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. This afternoon we've heard a lot about employment and work, and I'm really proud to be stood here talking about how Greater Manchester is really passionate about ensuring that people receive fair pay, decent working conditions and opportunities to develop and progress. Greater Manchester is the first living wage city region in the UK, working to help make the real living wage the norm and address in-work poverty. It is my pleasure to stand here today in this context and be able to announce that Greater Manchester is the first city region where all of our councils are committed to paying the real living wage to our social care workers. It's a really fantastic story for some of those people, some of them are hard-working people that do so much for our communities, and this means so much to them. Half of our local authorities already do pay or are committed to pay the real living wage over the coming year, and the rest are on track to follow shortly. As we progress this work, we will also continue with our campaigns to promote the real living wage across Greater Manchester employers and sectors, working with the Living Wage Foundation on our 3-year campaign that launched back in November 2021. The campaign directly responds to the Independent Inequalities Commission report that recommends that all residents be offered at least the real living wage by 2030. The campaign acts as a staging post towards that longer-term ambition. There are currently nearly 450 accredited employers in Greater Manchester. That is up from 384 when the campaign began. More local authorities and private sector businesses are due to accredit in the coming months. Alongside the real living wage, we will continue to raise employment standards for our residents across pay and the other 6 elements of the Good Employment Charter, including security at work, flexibility and employee voice. The inaugural Charter Awards were held earlier this month as the movement for good employment really gains momentum. We now have over 50 full members and over 350 supporters to the Charter, and that covers close to 300,000 employees within Greater Manchester. We will continue to develop the Charter to the responding changing world of work, and recent additions include provisions on sick pay and living hours. We're now going to hear about some of our greener priorities.
Okay, so the headline announcement is that across Greater Manchester, we're committed to delivering 30,000 net zero carbon homes within the city region by 2038. And later on this month, we will also be taking the implementation plan to delivering on that ambitious target to the combined authority. But let me just say a few things about why this is so important. I think we all know at the moment we face a housing crisis within the United Kingdom, in addition to a cost of living crisis. Homelessness and rough sleeping has been Mayor Andy Burnham's #1 priority over his first term as mayor of this great city region. But delivering on this target is also critically important if we're to deliver the aspirations that are articulated in our homelessness prevention strategy. At the moment, we have around 4,000 households living in temporary accommodation and emergency accommodation within the city region. In Greater Manchester, we believe that a place to call home is a fundamental human right, and this target speaks to that agenda. In addition to that, we've also got the challenge of the homes we already have, the retrofitting challenge, decarbonising poor carbon performing homes within the city region. And as many of you may know, it's a key part of our spatial plan, Places for Everyone, to ensure that we deliver net zero carbon homes from 2028, and that this city region is carbon neutral by 2038, 12 years ahead of the national target for the country. But all of this, what does it point to? It points to a huge challenge away from business as usual, a substantial switch in many respects from traditional construction techniques to modern off-site manufacturing. Clearly, it has implications for products, supply chains, skills, R&D, innovation within our construction sector here within Greater Manchester. And if anyone's familiar with the work of Mark Farmer, you'll know about the report he produced that talked about modernising or dying. It's something we have to do if we want to be economically competitive in a very fast-paced, changing world. This requires for us a whole system challenge, working with our housing associations, our universities, the construction and development sector, and importantly, working with government. Government is critical to us delivering on this ambitious agenda. So working through our strategic place partnership with Homes England, working through the government's own affordable homes programme, which at the moment means that 5 local authorities in Greater Manchester can't bid for social rent grant. So lobbying and influencing government, bringing them on this journey with us, is going to be critical to delivering this ambition. But this is also about the future of devolution, and obviously we've been chosen as one of the city regions within the country to engage further in conversations with government. We want to deliver accelerated innovation in terms of the homes we provide. We think we are strategically placed within UK PLC to deliver on this. So working with BEIS, the Treasury, the Department for Levelling Up, the DFE and DFT as well, because we don't just see homes in isolation. This is about creating places we can be proud of, sustainable places. It's about walking and cycling. It's about access to green space, public transport, leisure and culture, and importantly, jobs. Social value, social impact sits very much at the heart of this ambition. So that's why this mission is important to the city region. It's critical to the future of our people, and it's critical to the future economic success of Greater Manchester. Thank you very much.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Anne Selby, and I'm the chair of the Natural Capital Group for Greater Manchester, and we're the people who are passionate about looking after the natural environment in this great region. And as you will know, we have a biodiversity emergency as much as we have a climate change emergency, and that's something we focus on. But we do like to get out our silos because it's no good just sitting talking to ourselves. And we work very closely with the NHS, looking at social prescribing, and really seeing how this masses of evidence that we've had recently shows that environment and health do go very closely together. But we also know that access to green space is a really key factor in quality of life and well-being. And in the last 2 years, probably that's been brought to a head more than ever before as we've gone through COVID and isolation. But access to nature is not equal. Low-income households often are less likely to have good access to green space near their homes. So they don't get the physical and mental health benefits that can come from those green spaces. So this is where the new Green Spaces Fund comes in, and I'm delighted to be here today to announce this new fund. It's a £2.4 million fund that will provide small grants for communities wanting to create or enhance green spaces in their area. That's whether they want community gardens, green streets, pocket parks, whatever. We're also putting in place a team of community enablers to really support those groups, because some of them will not necessarily have the skills to be able to sort of pull all these things together. The fund will open for applications in May, and it'll be operated by the Greater Manchester Environment Fund, which has been set up to optimise environmental funding for the whole of the city region and has already channelled £2 million of funding into environmental projects to date. So to find out more, please look at the Greater Manchester Environmental Fund website and look on the Green Spaces Fund. And really my ask today is help spread the word so that if you know communities that would benefit from something like this, get the message out, get them to start thinking about an application in May, and let's hope we can help solve some of the inequalities in Greater Manchester through the green spaces. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. My name's Professor Will Swan. I'm the Director of Energy House Labs at the University of Salford. I'm also the Chair of the Low Carbon Buildings Challenge Group for Greater Manchester. And I'm here to announce the support of GM, as Paul's alluded to, of creating thousands of high-quality jobs by committing to the sustainable retrofit of the housing stock in Greater Manchester, and to announce we're launching a retrofit accelerator that will help people plan their journey to net zero in their homes. And I think we know we're in an energy crisis that we've not seen probably for more than one generation. There was a 70% increase in energy costs, and this is going to become worse because of the situation with the war in the Ukraine. We're looking at potentially the average household looking at a bill of more than £3,000 for energy. And that's pushing tens of thousands of people into fuel poverty. But also it's a massive draw on the economy, with more than 10 billion leaving Greater Manchester for energy costs. And I think one of the ways we can reduce that is by making the buildings and the heating of our buildings more energy efficient. And it has multiple benefits of, lifting people out of fuel poverty, climate, and creating jobs. So what we're going to do is launch the Retrofit Accelerator, and this is really about trying to understand how we can get to net zero in our existing homes. I think one of the challenges that we've had over the last 10 years is not really having a strategic view nationally. And I think Greater Manchester is taking the lead on this by understanding what are the supply and demand issues that drive retrofit, and by addressing them at the city region level. So we're focusing on skills, finance, delivery, and get this demand and supply side perspective to understand how we can deliver those retrofits that will create the jobs and bring industry into the city. I think GM's always led the way in this. We've had a decade of leading retrofit projects, and right now we're currently retrofitting £24 million worth for fuel poor. We've got £97 million to decarbonise public buildings, and we also have another £19 million through the Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund. And this is really not just about the environmental and social aspects, but also about the 80,000 jobs, the 1,000 new apprenticeships a year that this can create. So I think really, leading the way in this area and creating opportunities around the retrofit agenda is something that we're passionately committed to as a city region. And I'd just like to leave us there and to say we're now going to hear some about some of the priorities for a prosperous GM. Thank you very much.
This is us ladies. Here we go. Afternoon, everyone. We'll keep it super brief because we want to hear from our brilliant panel, and I wouldn't be any kind of chair if I didn't make sure we squeezed in enough time. So it's our pleasure today to talk about some of those important bits of news that we've got today to share around prosperity in Greater Manchester to help deliver all the things we've talked about today. It's my pleasure to be able to talk about Innovation Greater Manchester, which many of you in the room might have heard of, heard talked about. We've had a real milestone moment on that project, which I'm going to tell you about today, but just a little bit of background. So Innovation Greater Manchester is our blueprint to drive innovation across the whole conurbation and unlock what we're describing as a world-class innovation ecosystem. We're delighted that government has backed our plan, and we've got now access up to £100 million of funding through the Levelling Up agenda that many of you will have read about in the last few weeks. And just as crucially, IGM gives us a commitment to work together through the Levelling Up agenda to level up R&D spend across government and into the city region. So we're incredibly excited to get started with our Innovation Accelerator. We're one of 3 in the UK and through Innovation Greater Manchester. All of this is about our very bold economic vision. We've talked today about inclusive innovation being a really important part of our agenda. But really we see in a post-pandemic economy this reappraisal of those economic priorities that put people and the planet first. And through our core strengths, which many of you in this room work in or be familiar with, of materials, green growth, health innovation, and digital and creative, you know, we're now poised to lead that economic recovery, not just at the pace and the scale that we're going to do it, but in a way that recognises that value and also that definition of success. So we're very proud, as we promised as we went into the pandemic, not to try and go back to what was normal, but to try and go forward to better and to use IGM as a platform to make a greater Manchester and in turn a greater Britain.
So Greater Manchester, we are bold and we are ambitious, and it is an absolute delight to be up here in between Lou and Rose, because not only do we want to see Innovation GM be successful, not only is that a mark of the calibre of what we're able to deliver here in Greater Manchester, but and a testament to all of that by having that levelling up agreement with the government. I think it is truly to the credit of those that work here in Greater Manchester, and I'm delighted to have been able to work with Lou on the Greater Manchester economic vision. But what it shows right now, up here on this stage, is that business stands shoulder to shoulder with what we're trying to achieve here in Greater Manchester, and ensuring that everybody has quality jobs and good work as we go forward is really important. And throughout the pandemic, we saw that everyday economy, the ordinary people that deliver the care and look after us when we need looking after as we get older, or if we're younger, our early years, and our children delivering the care, but also those in retail, in the hospitality sector. And I'm really delighted to be able to announce to you today that we're going to be launching £1 million fund to help with innovation right into that everyday economy. So we're talking ordinary, everyday things that we rely on in order to be able able to go to work, in order to be able to function every single day. And what we're looking for is those businesses and business leaders and sole traders who are interested in trying new ideas, in being able to innovate, be creative, bring something new. Then we're here to support you, help you, bounce ideas off with you, and if necessary, put some money in there to help support you when you're doing it. So it's an absolute delight to be able to announce that today, and I'm really, really pleased to be able to share this stage with you both. Thank you.
Thank you, Elise. And as CEO of Cooperatives UK and Chair of the Social Enterprise Advisory Group for Greater Manchester, I'm delighted to announce that this week we will start work on the plan to co-design the Community Wealth Hub, which is a mayoral manifesto commitment, no pressure, as well as being recommended by the Independent Inequalities Commission and supported by the Social Enterprise Action Group. We'll be working with the organisations that will work to turn the Community Wealth Hub into wealth in our community. We want to make Greater Manchester the best place in the world, actually, not just the UK, for social enterprises, cooperatives and employee-owned businesses to thrive and grow. One example of how we'll be doing that with the Community Wealth Hub is with ownership at work and Volute, we're planning to bring a £100 million fund called Time to Share to directly stimulate local wealth into local workers' pockets. The pandemic has shone a light on the inequalities in the UK, and people are looking for a fairer way to trade, live and work. And the Community Wealth Hub is just one step towards achieving this. I believe we're handing back to you now, Andy.
Okay, what time are we on? We'll try and whiz through some questions if we can, Pan. Okay. So we've had introductions. Thank you, everyone, for speaking and joining us today. I'm going to start, I guess, with a bit of a kind of round robin to get everyone's opinions on what parts of today you're most excited about and seeing all of that come to life. Steve, I'm going to start with you at the end and we'll work down.
If I'm really honest, I think we've heard a lot about retrofit of domestic homes, which is our largest source of carbon emissions. But I'm really excited about the second largest source of carbon emissions, which is transport, and seeing you, Sarah, get into gear. In fact, just out of interest, who's been on a bike today? Yes. And didn't it feel great? The sun was out. So we massively have to make that the norm. Particularly for getting to work and getting people around the city region. So I think I'm probably most excited seeing that the great work of Chris Boardman rolled out even further.
Brilliant. Diane?
I suppose my response to that is the exciting bit for me is still to come, because what we've heard about on the stage from all our brilliant councillors and speakers is the excitement and the energy, and it's palpable, isn't it? You can really feel that. But I couldn't help but ask myself as I was listening to this, who is this excitement for? Who is it actually really going to impact, and how is it going to impact? So, I got a lot more encouraged when, I heard about those stubborn inequalities and that embedded inequalities, that was being recognised, because whilst, we can't deny that it is really exciting and it's ambitious, we've still got a lot of work to do to implement the aspiration that we've got, and clearly, being the city region that we are, we will absolutely achieve that. But at the same time, I think in parallel to the aspiration and ambition, we have to make sure that we're bringing the right people with us. We're making sure that they're confidently able to access some of the things that we're doing. So it's still to come, if I could use that as my answer.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dan. Nick?
So I'd like to just build on that comment, and I've been really thrilled today to hear about the good work, about the good homes and the good transport. But there's something else I'd add to that mix, and that's about the importance of, if we want to make sure that Manchester people and Greater Manchester people get on, they need to get online. And the importance of digital connectivity across all of GM in every single home, so that everyone has that opportunity of access to all the things that connectivity brings: social, jobs, health, and in the current climate, that crucial ability to just shop around and try and get the best deal you can to save money. So we've heard some brilliant stuff, but I want to throw into the mix the criticality of digital inclusion for all people in GM, and especially for the 1.2 million citizens of GM who, it's estimated, do not have that digital access that we need.
Thanks, Nick. Sarah, welcome to the GM family. We're so excited to have you here today. It'd be great to hear what you're most excited about, as if we can't guess, but you might surprise us.
No, I won't surprise you. Obviously, cycling and walking are part of my DNA, as I said at the start. But I think for me, one of the things I'm most excited about is joining it all together and making sure that we can have a genuinely inclusive transport system that includes walking and cycling, includes public transport, and doesn't leave anybody behind. You shouldn't have to own a vehicle in order to get around, to find opportunities. It should be a choice that you can make. So I'm looking forward to making my contribution to make sure that it's fully joined up.
Brilliant, thanks, Sarah. That's been such a big theme today, hasn't it? It's not working in silos, which I think we pride ourselves on, but great to see it again today. Tommy?
So, let me just adjust that so you can all hear me. So, what I'm most excited about, as a few people in this room will know, is I'm a young cooperator myself. I've been named the youngest cooperative CEO in the country, as well as being a GMYCA digital lead. I'm excited about this community growth hub, community wealth hub, because I'm seeing a lot more young people starting up these community-based companies to help each other out, basically, because I think that's what's in the mind of young people at the moment. But what I'm also excited to see is us becoming a living wage city, because that's what faces a lot of young people. I think the minimum wage for those that are under 18 currently sits at £4.30 an hour, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I think up to, from 19 to 21, I think it's £7.50. But we're all doing the same job. Why should a young person be paid differently?
Yeah. I think you might have just launched the next bit of our campaign accidentally there, Tommy. If Ravi's here, he'll be scribbling away furiously. Brilliant. Anne.
I probably should be talking to you about the wonders of the natural environment of Greater Manchester and all our challenges. But actually, for me, lots of us who chair these groups are actually volunteers, and it's coming on the journey together. It's being part of something that's passionate, that's inspired, where we have that common purpose and we're moving forward. And for me, that's the really important thing about today.
Brilliant, thanks, Anne. So I'm going to try and get opinions as well on perhaps the next bit, which is what are our biggest challenges. I'm really interested to, as we go and try and execute all of those incredible visions and opportunities. What's your thought, Anne, on the biggest challenges that face us?
We talked about this. We had the Climate Change Commission visiting us the other week. Sorry, it's not working. The Climate Change Commission visiting us the other week, and we were looking at the barriers that really, Steve was there as well, and there are a lot of barriers, and we're working really hard as chairs of all these groups to try and make a difference. And there are just some things that could be fixed very easily by government. Why are we still building houses that need to be almost retrofitted immediately? Why are we still wrestling with, embedding the new environmental land management systems and the ELMS, as it's called, and biodiversity net gain? We're just not getting clear leadership from there. We're sort of ahead of them, but I hope they were listening when they came the other day and were taking away our challenges and barriers that we were telling them about, because it is quite frustrating to have the ambition and not necessarily have all the tools that we can to make the changes with.
Tommy.
So I think the biggest challenge today, talking about young people adults, more or less everybody in Greater Manchester at some point has probably had to deal with this, especially if you're in the working class like most of our residents, is digital connectivity. One place I know for certain is doing something is Salford. There's brilliant schemes down there with the device gifting scheme and the free local Wi-Fi in places, and there's constantly stuff coming in the digital innovation sector coming out there to tackle digital inequality, but it's still lacking from kind of throughout. Like, I think, I am absolutely terrible with names, sorry, said 1.3 people can't access the internet, and that's going to stop those 1.3 people from applying for jobs because all applications are online now. It's going to stop them from accessing information and learning. Fair enough, we've got the libraries, but more or less every learning resource is online. Look at some universities in the town centre as well. Some are still only online because of COVID. So we really need to be working on helping not only young people, but also adults connect to the internet, and especially those in our older generations as well.
Thanks, Tommy. Sarah?
Well, certainly from my perspective, I think the cycling and walking network, we're going to be needing to work incredibly hard on some behavioural change programmes. There's a lot of people who are going to need a lot of support to be able to understand how this fits to their life. Journey chaining is a big barrier that people face, telling us that they can't get out of their vehicle because they need to go from A to B to C to D to E and then back to A again. So how we can work with people to look at the opportunity to change behaviour and see their journeys from a different perspective and provide that opportunity and support for them to have that choice to leave their vehicle behind. So behavioural change programmes will be one of the big challenges that we face, and also bringing people along the journey with us. We need to win hearts and minds. It's not just a matter of telling people how they're going to move around, it's about giving them that choice and that opportunity to choose for themselves.
Yeah, I can see Steve nodding furiously on the end. Nick?
So I'm going to be cheeky and have two very quick bites of this cherry. So the first one is, the first big challenge is, as we do all the brilliant things that have been outlined today, we have to take people in our communities with us. We have to recognise that they're going through incredibly difficult times, not just with cost of living, but with a whole bunch of other issues relating to the educational fallback that we've had through the pandemic, through with people's access to housing, etc., etc. And you know, to take a political cliche and actually turn it into something real, we have to make sure that our growth and our development is for the many, for the people in our communities, and not just for the few. So that's the first thing. The second thing is around the whole decarbonisation and the green homes. For me, it's very much a hearts and minds. How do we convince people, everyday ordinary people, that their home has to get retrofitted over the next 20 or so years? And I think that is a hearts and minds thing, not just to be approached as a technology and skills thing. And we have to really get it into people's heads that this is about future generations and giving up something now for that future generation.
I think for me, one of the biggest challenges that we face are around green spaces. So what young people during the peak of the pandemic was telling us, and our young advisory group was also telling us, was that young people wanted to be out in green spaces that were safe, that was accessible, that they could do structured or unstructured activity within. Oftentimes when we see these great green spaces, they end up being built upon, don't they, you know, for all the right reasons. But I think the biggest challenge will be, how do we ensure that we are lobbying for and maintaining the green spaces that we have, but make them you know, more viable, more accessible for the lives that we lead and live in an environment like today.
So Dan, that was one of the big themes of the Be Well work, was actually just a lack of access to green space and a lack of opportunity for physical activity. Other than green space, what else do you think we need to be thinking about to make sure that young people do have the opportunity to get out there and be more active?
This is a little bit more difficult to quantify, but it's confidence. Yeah. It's actually allowing young people to grow up in an environment where they feel that they can access anything and everything they want, which is what we all promote within this room. And, you know, when we consider that the areas of deprivation and the social economic inequalities that exist, that is surrounded by a young person's confidence. And I think if we can provide homes that are safe, that are affordable, minimum wage, if we can build trusted relationships with professionals within the areas of mental health, so that when young people are facing really difficult times, we can use the experience and support that we have to get them through those stresses. So it's definitely not a straightforward answer, but it's just being able to provide a consistent platform of security and support for young people to be able to access the things that we've spoken about today.
Brilliant, thanks Dan. Steve, some of the green ambitions we've heard about today, what are the biggest barriers to achieving those, do you think?
Well, I'm not going to get away with doing behaviour change in hearts and minds, am I? So I'm not going to have a third go at saying that. So I'm not going to answer your question.
Okay.
I'm going to
time.
go at what the opportunity is, because what strikes me is having a really powerful vision for a city region that is fairer, greener, more ambitious, innovative, really well connected, is an astounding brand platform to pitch to the rest of the world. It's a really, really rich story. And luckily we have colleagues in Marketing Manchester and Midas and the Growth Hub that are there to help leverage that story out to the rest of the world. And I think that for me is a huge opportunity to take this vision that we've heard today and pitch it. It's the reason why, Lou, people like you and I build a business here, is because it's the right place to do that. And then I think coming back full circle, I think telling that really rich story of us as a progressive Greater Manchester will help back here at home when we need to convince businesses to switch to green energy, to have a net zero target that they want to work for, to do their darndest to stop people driving to work, which is insane, and to get on their bikes or walk or take public transport. When we need to come full circle, if we've got this really rich international brand that we're known for and successful around, it'll make it so much easier to take people on a journey with us back here at home.
Brilliant. Hear, hear. Okay, I'm going to attempt to try and squeeze in a couple of questions from the audience because we've got tons. But
Can I just cover something quickly? So, in regards to the question that was asked to Diane as well, but the Be Well survey has had a brilliant reactions to it. I'm one of the people who's quite involved with that. Coming on from the GNYCA, we've fed into that, we've heard results from that and stuff. But one thing I think people can do is take public transport more, because even though you don't think that you're walking more or getting more physical exercise in, by taking public transport instead of a car or a taxi or whatever, on a daily average, I get in about 15,000 steps, which is quite a lot and does help improve your health. Two, I think companies do have a part to play in this as well. Yeah. I think companies could be doing more, and I think we have some work to do there in getting more companies to offer stuff like season ticket loans for the train, because train stations, sometimes you have to walk about a mile to work, and that's still doing some physical exercise. Even though most people don't consider walking physical exercise, you're still helping your joints, you're still building muscle up, you're still doing sort of those. And what else companies can do is offer bicycle loans as well, because I can name off the top of my head 5 companies that offer these, and they're a brilliant way to do this. And some, companies can partner with other companies who offer those loans to your employees, so it doesn't even come to a cost to you. So it's a brilliant thing that we need to take advantage of.
Brilliant. I think you're going to get some TFGM sponsorship if you're not careful there, Tommy. They'll grab you on the way out. Brilliant. Okay, I'm going to try and squeeze in a couple of questions. Sarah, a question for you from the audience was, where would you like to have the most impact? So, for example, what are the 3 things you're really looking on delivering in your first year in the role?
Oh, that's a big question. I start in May and I'm looking forward to getting to grips with what's already around Chris Boardman has done an incredible job and worked with partners across the Mayoral Combined Authority and across the city region. So for me, the first thing is to take an assessment of where we are and work out exactly what those strings need to be. We need to be strategic, we need to make sure we can have impacts, and we need to make sure that the things that are already in the pipeline can be delivered in the next 12 months as they're planned, and that nothing holds them up. But we also need to look on where we can go from there as well. So I don't know exactly what it is right now because I haven't got everything. It's been quite a quick turnaround to announce me today, but I know that there's so many opportunities with young people being such a focus across the whole city region. That joined up connectivity of transport and public transport, that's absolutely vital, and having the opportunity to make people's lives better so that we can live healthier lives for longer, because healthy life expectancy has vastly reduced in the past decades as we've designed activity out of people's lives.
I'm going to sneak one 60-second answer in before we go, just because it's a great question from somebody. What tempted you to Greater Manchester?
Well, this is where I was born, and this is where I spent most of my life, and I just love Greater Manchester. This is where I call home, so the opportunity to work in your home and make it better for all of those people that you work with, that you pass by, whether you know them or not. Manchester has always been me, and somebody once said to me, you can take the girl out of Manchester, but you can't take Manchester out of the girl, and that's me.
We'll finish on that note. Andy, back to you.
Oh, thanks, everybody. We're nearly there. Thanks for bearing with us. But we're getting towards the end, and there was something Diane said that I think is something that we just need to focus on before we finish. And it's simply that we can't achieve any of the high ambitions that you've heard about up here today if our residents don't feel safe in their day-to-day lives. That we have safe homes, safe communities, and actually we have safety at the top of everything that we think about. Women and girls' safety, absolutely, and we continue to challenge on that point. But more broadly, safety on our public transport in all of our communities. So if I could ask the Deputy Mayor to come forward, who's going to introduce the new police and crime plan. We are joined by still our new Chief Constable, not quite a year yet, but getting close. So Stephen, it's wonderful to have you with us today. I don't know if you wanted to come up and also our new, slightly less new, but still just about new, our new Chief Fire Officer, Dave Russell. So we've got two great people leading our police and fire services forward, very much part of the team. So Stephen and Dave, if you'd like to join Bev on stage for this final section.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you very much, Andy. Well, as Andy said, this is Chief Constable Stephen Watson and Chief Fire Officer Dave Russell from the Fire Service. And although formally I'm launching the Police and Crime Plan today, the next Police and Crime Plan for the year 22-25, I really want to talk more generally about the importance of both of these vital emergency services. And the Police and Crime Plan and the recently published Fire Plan, they set out how our policing services, our wider criminal justice, and our fire service will work together to keep people safe, but also to contribute to the wider ambitions that we've heard about today. And what a fantastic event it's been, I think, and I'm really pleased that we can contribute to the rounding up of it. Keeping people safe is fundamental, isn't it? It's the bottom line. Because if children are at risk of harm, including online, if women and girls, as Andy has said, don't feel safe on the streets or in their own home or on public transport, if communities are blighted by antisocial behaviour, if our buildings aren't safe and they're not resilient enough to fire and our residents are worried about that, then clearly the potential that our people and our communities have can't be fully realised, or it'll be more difficult to realise that potential in the face of some of those hazards and risks. So being able to respond effectively, whether through policing or firefighting, when crime or fire strikes is important. even more important is trying to prevent some of those dangers happening in the first place. And that is why this plan and the fire plan too is not just actually for the police and the fire service, but it's for all of our partner organisations that work together. All of those people you've heard about today, our local authorities, our schools, our health services, our voluntary and community organisations, businesses and communities themselves, because actually safety for communities is everybody's business, and it's the fundamental prerequisite without which everything else we've talked about today can't, as I say, be fully realised. The priorities and the commitments in both of those plans have actually come from the public themselves and from our organisations. They've both been based on really extensive and wide-ranging consultation. They're ambitious, and they need to be. And I think the police and crime plan in particular signals a new area of more transparent accountability and people-centred policing, neighbourhood focus for our police services and our fire services, criminal justice partners, and so on over the next 3 years. The police and crime plan has got 3 pillars in it that came from that consultation: keeping people safe and supporting victims, reducing harm and offending, and strengthening communities, and they're reflected in the fire plan as well. And in addition, supported by 2 underlying themes for action that you've heard about today as well: tackling inequalities in all its forms, and delivering the way we deliver our services in conjunction with the people who are affected most by them. In terms of crime and fire, that's the victims, members of the public, and so on. So, by its very nature, you know, we're a big city region, a major conurbation with all of the challenges that those kinds of places face, whether in terms of policing or fire or other hazards. But as I also hope you've appreciated today, we have some fantastic assets. We've got the diversity of our citizens and the collective ambition that you've heard expressed here today. In our 2 leaders here, we've also got people who are absolutely clear and committed to the principle of policing and firefighting as being at the heart of public services, and working in conjunction with all our colleagues here to make sure that we can deliver the very, very best for our citizens in safe and secure communities that provide them with the kind of platform through which they can really achieve their full potential. Thank you.
I'll go first. The mic is... I'll hand the cool mic on to you. It'll get hotter when you've had hold of it. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the invitation. In many respects, it's really apt, I think, that, as has been suggested, the Police and Crime Plan is spoken of in this context, because it is not a work of GMP parochially. It is not that GMP services can be delivered parochially. They have to be delivered in conjunction with all people of good faith, as well as partner agencies, statutory and non-statutory, and that is absolutely the intent. I echo the point about assets, because candidly there's no point in beating around the bush. You know, GMP has underperformed its latent potential for too long, and we are absolutely determined to turn that round, and we have collectively a huge degree of confidence that that is precisely what we can do. But the latent underperformance of GMP is not to deny the fact that we have literally many thousands of tremendously professional, diligent, courageous people who serve our communities, so very, very faithfully. And that is a tremendous commodity that we have. All we need to do is to make sure that we put that talent into the proverbial 6-yard box. We haven't been doing that as well as we might. Watch this space, folks. We've new leadership, we've a plan, we've the means of delivering the plan. We have the very welcome support emanating out from the mayor, the deputy mayor, and partners in concentric circles. I have no doubt that our recent travails will very shortly be put behind us as we get back to proper policing.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity just to say a few words briefly today. I've been in post for just over 15 months, and similar to Stephen, incredibly buoyed by the potential of Greater Manchester Fire and Rescue Service, and certainly for me, sat in the room today, the energy in the room is absolutely infectious. When I joined the service, I had two very simple priorities. They've not changed since day one, and they won't change going forward, and that's for us as a fire and rescue service to deliver our statutory core functions extraordinarily well, but importantly, to increasingly deliver an outward-facing fire and rescue service. And recently, the Deputy Mayor has just signed off a new strategy for a framework for integrated place-based working, and that's certainly where my focus will be in understanding how Greater Manchester Fire and Rescue Service can increasingly play a role and add value in the future of the Greater Manchester strategy. So, thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you. Stephen, thank you very much. Lovely, Bob. Okay. That's just about us. Tell you what, it says something about the city region, doesn't it? That Dave's frontline firefighters were washing cars in every corner of Greater Manchester over the weekend to support Bohdan, to support our Ukrainian communities and obviously raise funds. So well done. That's what when we see public services, that's what we want to see, Dave, and that's a credit to you and all of your firefighters. So please thank them from us. Another thank you. I think I have to thank our signer today, who's been doing a brilliant job here. So thank you very much indeed. And as you've all been looking through the foliage and the plants, did the greener Greater Manchester message come through? Probably. And we've put you through all the temperatures of the seasons, I think, this afternoon, haven't we? But well done, Freight Island. This is a great asset, isn't it, here? I would recommend a night out here. It is a good one. So thank you, Freight Island, all the colleagues here at Mayfield for welcoming us today. I'm just going to say a last little bit, which I hope will sort of bring everything together and put everything that we've heard today in some sort of context, in terms of the lives we've all lived and the love we all have for Greater Manchester, because we do, don't we? But I just want to take you back through that line, that timeline, the history of this city, but also the wider city region. Because I was growing up here in the 80s, and if I think of that period, through the 80s into the mid-90s, things were being taken off us in the Lee area. I remember the mines closing. I bet others will remember the mills closing in Oldham, Rochdale, elsewhere. We had affordable public transport taken off us. If you remember all of that change when our orange and white buses left. They're not coming back, I'm afraid, but still we're getting buses that work better for people coming back. But we just lost things, didn't we? Things were taken away. And I was in my early 20s when I came back to Greater Manchester from university, determined to work here. And I sent thousands of CVs around everywhere. And in the end, my first job was an unpaid reporter on the Middleton Guardian. But I know what you're saying about the living wage for young people, Tommy, but I couldn't get any wage at that moment in time. And like so many people of my era, recognised that to get on in life, you had to go south. That was basically what it was. And that was a story for so many people growing up here. Kind of felt you just had to leave home if you wanted to get on in life. If I then look at that phase beyond that, I would say it was 1996, and sadly the IRA bomb here, but that changed something, didn't it? Because at that point the city kind of picked itself up from its bootstraps, and it's right to mention Sir Richard Lees, Sir Howard Bernstein today, because they led the change in that period through the Commonwealth Games and that kind of bringing in of new investment that we just simply didn't have before. And then with Paul and all of his colleagues at Salford with Media City, as that prosperity began to grow out, that was a change, wasn't it, in our city region? But actually, if I look at that period, and we can call that period now, let's say the mid-90s to the start of the pandemic, a lot of people were coming here to work from other places. And for kids growing up in our city region, when they looked at the city centre and the way the city centre was changing, I don't think they would have thought that they could work here. And this is the new era that we're going into for me. This is an era when we make the best use of our most valuable asset. And as people have said today, that is our people in all of its diversity, encouraging all of our young people from all backgrounds to fulfill their true potential. And I think that is when this place will actually fire on all cylinders and will punch with its full weight, when we give all of our residents, particularly our younger residents, the opportunity to be part of this success story that is Greater Manchester. Young people who, when they're growing up in some of our outer boroughs and they see these skyscrapers, they grow up thinking, I can work there, I will work there. And that is the level of ambition that they have, when no one is held back because of their background. We've just launched an amazing program with Operation Black Vote to ensure that young people from the black community who are underrepresented in Greater Manchester at the higher levels do start to have doors opened for them rather than shut in their face, as too often been the case in the past. But it's about all young people coming through. And that's why today we do commit to £1 bus fares for our children. But I want to work with the leaders to make sure the R-Pass is permanent so that young people continue to have free bus travel. So they can do, Tommy, exactly what you are saying. Just travel around freely and kind of find opportunity wherever it is in all 10 boroughs. And yes, Nick, have that digital connectivity. You know, we don't want a city region where kids have to crowd outside fast food restaurants to get online. We have set the ambition of all young people, all under 25s online, because if we're not careful, that will be a new inequality coming out of the pandemic when the world's moved online, but some can't take part in that change. And that's why we're really determined to build on what you've said. So you've heard it all laid out there today. This is it, everybody. This is the new era for Greater Manchester. And what you have seen with your own eyes today is that we have the best people working with us anywhere in the country. We have the best policies of anywhere in the country because they're policies for everybody, policies that will benefit all of our residents. We have a plan. We know where we're going. We know what we want to achieve. And there's absolutely no reason why we can't now go out from here and do it. We don't aim to fail at anything. We never aim to come second best. We've got high ambitions now for this city region and its people as we go forward. Greener, fairer, more prosperous. It's within our reach. And I'm so excited that you've been here today and are going to be part of this journey with us as we go forward from here to 2038. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for your attention and your attendance this afternoon. And let's go out there and make it happen. Thank you.
My hopes for the next 15 to 20 years are that we live in a city that embraces the differences and is led by a diverse group of young people.
Where children have the best possible education they can have and the best opportunities for a career.
I think basic life skills, looking after themselves and cooking and sewing even.
Greater Manchester is a place with better funded mental health services for young people.
A decent wage and affordable housing.
I'm really worried about grandchildren, especially getting onto the property ladder. I mean, it's hard enough for my children.
Easier access for public transport.
Greater Manchester needs to always continue listening to its young people.
I think it is necessary for us all to contribute to society.
Listening to other people's opinions
Ethnic minorities have contributed a lot in Greater Manchester, so we need to be taught more about them.
More focus needs to go on younger people outside the schools, so I think we need to bring back youth centres.
Reduce inequalities in education.
We live in a society full of different cultures, and we can all contribute to make the society much fairer.
Park spaces to be protected and green spaces to be protected.
Leadership that truly represents everyone within the communities.
Active travel, like better, more integrated public transport services to make sure people have the choice.
Opportunities across Greater Manchester need to be more evenly spread.
Hopeful.
Safe.
Inclusive.
Opportunistic.
Equal opportunities.
Diverse.
Understanding.
Fairer.
Aspirational.
Accessible.
Leaders.
Resilience.
Connected.
Progressive.
Sustainable.
Intelligent.
Equal.